Archangel Michael and Elon speak. Your breakthrough activates the moment you open this. Your partner's truth is surfacing online and heaven is guiding your eyes. There are moments, my beloved child, when something louder than your thought seems to rise within you, something that feels like a sudden shift in the atmosphere. You pause, and without knowing why, you sense that heaven is leaning close. Stay with me now, because what you felt was not panic. It was a holy disruption, a gentle but undeniable invitation into clarity. And in a moment, you'll understand why this message found you now. You've been moving through days where the noise around you has drowned out the quiet truth inside you. The world has been asking too much, pulling you in too many directions, leaving you little space to hear the deeper wisdom rising from your spirit. Yet even in that swirl, something broke through, almost like the symbolic cry of Archangel Michael cutting through confusion, not to frighten you, but to help you notice what your heart has been trying to say. This disruption is not chaos. It is alignment. It is the moment when heaven clears a path through the static so your inner knowing can speak again. You may have felt a sudden stillness, a goosebump ripple, a stirring behind your ribs. You may have even felt a brief rush of emotion without knowing its source. All of these sensations are ways your spirit signals that truth is approaching. Listen closely, because this is important. You are not being pushed, pressured, or warned. You are being awakened. There is a difference, a sacred difference. Pressure creates fear. Awakening creates peace. And the shift you're stepping into comes wrapped in peace, even if it arrives with a dramatic symbol that catches your attention first. You've been asking for guidance, perhaps quietly, perhaps with tears no one else saw. You've asked for a sign, a direction, a confirmation. And now the veil is thinner, the air softer, the inner voice clearer. Heaven doesn't always whisper. Sometimes it uses a flash of insight, a sudden thought, a dream you can't shake, or a phrase that feels too timely to ignore. What you're experiencing is the beginning of that clarity. Let your breath soften. Let your shoulders lower. You are safe. Nothing here is demanding urgency. What is rising for you now is truth delivered in kindness, truth offered to help you walk forward without guessing, doubting, or second-guessing what you already sense. The noise around you has been loud, but your inner knowing has always been stronger. And as you stand in this moment of holy disruption, feel how a quiet steadiness begins to replace confusion. Feel how something within you leans toward understanding, as though heaven is gently turning your face toward what matters most. Something is unfolding, not in haste, but in perfect timing, guiding you toward the next layer of clarity meant for you. Let your heart stay open, because the calm that follows this inner shift will reveal more than the disruption itself ever could. Let us slow everything down now, my dear one. After the holy disruption, your spirit needs room to breathe again. Take a gentle breath in, not forced, simply welcomed. Feel how the air moves through you and softens your edges. Let your shoulders drop just a little. Let your jaw loosen. Let your chest grow warm as your breath deepens. You have carried so many scattered thoughts today, and heaven knows it. But right now, you are being invited into calm awareness instead of noise. Stay with me, especially if your spirit begins to soften. This softening is your signal that presence is drawing near. Presence is not a distant place. It is the quiet inside you that emerges when everything unnecessary settles. Take another slow breath. Let it rise gently, as though lifted by unseen hands. Then let it fall, like a small wave returning to shore. Feel how each breath gathers the scattered pieces of your attention. Notice how your inner world becomes less crowded and more spacious. Nothing urgent is required of you here. You are not being asked to fix anything or figure anything out. You are simply stepping into the presence that has been waiting for you. When your awareness slows, clarity grows. That is the quiet miracle unfolding within you now. Feel the warmth in your chest as if a small flame has been lit. This flame is peace, and peace always begins with breath. You may sense a tingling along your arms or a looseness behind your eyes. These sensations are not random. They are signs that your nervous system recognizes safety. Safety makes room for truth to land softly. Let yourself settle a little more. You do not need to rush this moment. Presence blooms slowly, like morning light. As your attention gathers, the inner noise fades into the background. You may even feel as though time is stretching open for you. That spaciousness is heaven's kindness, giving you room to hear again. Take one more slow inhale, feeling the rise within your ribs. Hold it gently for a heartbeat. Then release, letting your whole being soften like fabric relaxing in warm sun. What you are feeling now is alignment beginning to take shape. Alignment does not shout. Alignment whispers, welcomes, and steadies. It gathers what has been scattered and brings you home to yourself. As you rest here, notice the quiet invitation forming in your spirit. It is guiding you toward clarity that comes without pressure. Trust this softness, for it opens the way to what you are meant to understand next now. My beloved child, as your breath settles and the quiet gathers around you, something deeper begins to rise, something you've been carrying far longer than anyone knows. You've walked with questions that never seemed to find answers, holding them close because you didn't want to burden anyone else. You've smiled through confusion, tended to others while your own heart trembled, and moved forward even when part of you wondered if you were walking alone. Heaven saw every step of that journey long before you spoke a word of it. There are burdens that never show on the surface. The doubts you whisper to your pillow. The hopes you barely admit to yourself. The moments when you wondered if the love you offered was too much or if your presence was too little. These hidden weights have shaped the way you breathe, the way you trust, the way you try to keep your heart open even after it has been bruised. But hear this gently, none of your unseen suffering has ever been invisible to heaven. You may think your uncertainty has been overlooked, but it has been held tenderly. Every night you lay awake trying to make sense of someone's mixed signals, every moment you felt something was off but couldn't prove it, every time you gave the benefit of the doubt while your own heart cracked a little, heaven noticed. Not to judge you, but to wrap you in understanding that runs deeper than any human comfort. There is a reason you feel tired at a soul level. Carrying unspoken fears is heavy. Wondering if someone you care for is being honest is heavy. Questioning your worth because someone didn't choose you clearly or treat you gently is heavy. Loving people who are still learning how to love themselves is heavy. And you carried all of it with grace, even when you didn't feel graceful. But now, as presence surrounds you, something begins to shift. That contrast between your hidden weight and heaven's full awareness creates an opening. You are not being asked to pretend strength you no longer feel. You are being invited to acknowledge how much you've carried without recognition. Let the truth touch you softly. You have not been unseen. Your heart has never cried alone. Feel how compassion gathers around you, warm and steady. This is what it feels like when heaven leans close enough to lift what you cannot keep holding. The burden does not leave all at once, but it loosens, like a knot finally willing to unclench. As this softness spreads through your spirit, trust that you are being guided toward a clarity that honors your heart rather than breaking it. And in that clarity, something long overdue begins to rise. There is a moment, my dear one, when the heart wonders why answers take so long to arrive. After carrying so much, it is natural to ask why love didn't unfold sooner, why someone didn't choose more clearly, why the dream you reached for seemed to hover just outside your grasp. But breathe gently here, because what felt like delay was never dismissal. Heaven was not ignoring you. Heaven was orchestrating something wiser than your timeline could hold. You have lived through seasons where you thought you were ready, where you believed the relationship should have deepened, the message should have arrived, the door should have opened. You waited, sometimes with hope, sometimes with frustration, sometimes with a quiet ache you tried to pray away. Yet even in those moments, something unseen was moving on your behalf. The pause you felt was not an empty space. It was a shield, soft and invisible, placed between you and what would have harmed your peace if it had arrived too soon. There were people you longed for who were not ready to hold your heart. There were opportunities that would have demanded pieces of you you're no longer willing to sacrifice. There were paths that looked beautiful but would have led you into confusion, not clarity. And though you couldn't see it then, Heaven's timing was protecting you from outcomes you might have mistaken for blessings. Rushed outcomes can feel tempting. They promise quick comfort, quick answers, quick relief. But rushed things rarely have deep roots. They blow over in the first strong wind. Wise timing, however, builds foundations that last. It weaves together experiences, insights, and inner strength so that when something finally arrives, you are able to hold it without fear of losing it. And heaven knew you deserved a foundation, not a fragment. Think back for a moment. Remember the times you felt shut out or delayed. If some of those desires had unfolded instantly, they would have met a version of you that was still healing, still wondering, still learning. They would have placed weight on wounds that were not ready for pressure. You might have interpreted dysfunction as destiny, or mixed signals as intimacy. Heaven loved you too much to let you enter a situation that would confuse your spirit instead of anchoring it. You didn't miss your moment. Your moment has been maturing. It has been gathering truth, shaping clarity, aligning with the fullness of who you're becoming. Nothing has been lost. Nothing meant for you has slipped away. It has simply been waiting for the hour when your heart could receive without shrinking, and when your life could welcome without sacrificing your peace. You will soon look back and understand why this had to unfold exactly the way it did. There is a wisdom to this story that has not yet revealed itself. And as the pieces begin to connect, you will see that the delay was not a detour. It was preparation, protection, and quiet love wrapped in divine timing, guiding you toward the truth that is finally ready to rise. There are moments, my beloved child, when something catches your attention and lingers a little longer than expected. A number on a clock. A name you haven't heard in years. A lyric that arrives at the exact second your heart asks a silent question. These moments are not random. They are gentle nudges, soft taps on the shoulder from heaven, guiding you toward awareness rather than demanding any action from you. You may notice 1111 glowing on your phone when you weren't even planning to look at the screen. You may see 555 on a receipt or hear the same phrase from two different people within one afternoon. At first it seems small, almost silly, but the repetition stirs something inside you. It feels familiar, comforting, like being reminded of a truth you already carry. That is how signs work. They echo something your spirit recognizes before your mind understands. You've experienced those beautiful triads of noticing. You saw it, you felt it, you knew it. You saw the number. You felt the shift in your chest or the flutter in your ribs. And deep inside, without knowing why, you knew it meant something. Not a warning. Not a command. Just alignment whispering softly, inviting you to pay attention to what is unfolding around and within you. Dreams can speak the same way. Not always dramatic, not always symbolic, just meaningful in their timing. A familiar face appearing when you've been thinking of reconciliation. A forgotten memory resurfacing when you're learning to let go. A location you haven't visited yet but feel drawn toward. These dreams rise when your spirit is selecting the truths that matter most, bypassing noise, bypassing doubt, bypassing fear. Songs do it too. A lyric that lands like a message written just for your heart. A melody that gives you chills on a day when you feel alone. A chorus that repeats a phrase your soul has been whispering all week. Heaven uses music because music slips beneath your defenses and speaks directly to feeling. When a song arrives at the perfect moment, it is not coincidence. It is compassion wrapped in sound. And then there are names. Names that appear in conversations, headlines, memories, or unexpected places. Sometimes the name belongs to someone you're connected to. Sometimes it belongs to someone whose role in your life is changing. Sometimes it simply calls your attention to a pattern you've been too overwhelmed to notice. Names carry energy, and when they repeat, they are inviting you into clarity that emerges slowly, gently, and truthfully. These signs do not pressure you to act. They encourage you to listen. They don't push you toward fear. They guide you toward alignment. Every time you pause and sense that warm shift in your chest, every time a soft chill runs along your arms, your spirit is signaling that what you're noticing matters. Not because heaven wants you to decode everything instantly, but because heaven wants you to remember you're not walking alone. So the next time a number repeats, a dream lingers, or a lyric wraps itself around your heart, breathe and allow the moment to settle. These nudges are not random threads. They are woven into the tapestry of your becoming, reminding you that meaning is closer than it seems and that a deeper clarity is already moving toward you now. Not everything that catches your attention is meant to send you into fear, my beloved child. When you hear a phrase like someone's secret being exposed, your heart might tense for a moment, wondering if there is something you must uncover right away. But pause here, breathe, and let your spirit return to calm. Discernment is never found in panic. Discernment is found in peace, in boundaries, in the quiet knowing that rises when you are centered instead of startled. Sometimes your mind races toward worst-case ideas not because they are true but because you have been hurt before. That memory of past confusion can echo loudly when anything feels uncertain. Yet heaven is not asking you to chase shadows or dig through someone's private world in fear. Heaven is inviting you to notice how your body reacts when something aligns with truth. Peace expands you. Panic shrinks you. Clarity feels warm, grounded, gentle. Fear feels sharp, rushed, unstable. When you follow peace, you walk toward truth without harming your own heart. There is also wisdom in pausing before assuming anything about someone you care for. If a concern arises, let yourself breathe into it rather than grabbing onto it. Ask quietly within, does this thought bring peace or pressure? Does it create understanding or agitation? The answers that come from heaven will always be wrapped in gentleness. They will not shove you. They will not confuse you. They will land softly, like a feather settling into your open palm. If you ever feel the urge to investigate out of fear, pause and return to your breath. Fear urges you to react. Peace invites you to perceive. And perception born from peace leads you into truth without damaging trust, dignity, or your own emotional safety. You deserve relationships where clarity is offered willingly, not extracted anxiously. You deserve connections where communication flows openly instead of leaving you guessing about someone's intentions. So when a concern rises within you, use the peace test. Sit with the thought, breathe into it, and notice what your spirit does. If peace expands, clarity is near. If anxiety tightens, step back and ground yourself before interpreting anything. Truth never hides in panic. Truth reveals itself through steadiness, through insight, through a gentle sense of inner alignment that does not demand haste. Let this awareness become your shelter whenever uncertainty stirs. You do not need to search frantically for answers, because the truth meant for you will rise without force. You will recognize it by peace, by warmth in your chest, by the release in your shoulders. When clarity comes, it will come gently, honoring your heart rather than shaking it. And as you lean into this way of knowing, you walk toward whatever revelation awaits. Take a slow breath now, my dear one, and let your spirit soften as you settle into this sacred moment. You are not asked to understand everything at once. You are simply invited to open your heart, just enough for peace to enter. Let this prayer steady you, calm you, and draw you into the quiet where courage begins to rise. Holy God, who sees every trembling question and every hidden hope, draw near to this beloved soul. Let your presence fall softly around them like warm light settling on tired shoulders. Breathe courage into the places where fear has whispered too loudly. Breathe clarity into the corners of the mind where confusion has lingered. Let your peace become the ground beneath their feet. Bless their breath. Bless their heart. Bless their seeking. As they inhale, let them feel strength returning to their chest. As they exhale, let the tightness they've been carrying release like mist fading in morning sun. With each breath, remind them they are held by something steady, something wiser than their worries, something that has guided them gently through every unseen night. Holy One, lift the veil from their eyes in your timing. Not through force, not through fear, but through gentle revelation that lands with peace. When curiosity tries to run ahead, pull them back into stillness. When fear wants to interpret every sign as danger, remind them that your voice does not provoke panic. Your voice brings calm knowing, quiet insight, and tender assurance. Bless their courage. Bless their clarity. Bless the path unfolding before them. Let them trust that what they need to see will rise naturally. Let them trust that what is not meant for them will fall away without harm. Let them trust that their heart is safe in your hands, even when the future feels uncertain or unclear. Wrap them in a sense of inner steadiness that does not waver when emotions swell. Holy God, guide them gently. Speak through peace. Reveal through softness. Let every answer arrive like a leaf drifting into open palms, light, true, unmistakably yours. And when the moment of revelation comes, let it bring relief rather than overwhelm, expansion rather than contraction, gratitude rather than fear. Bless their steps. Bless their intuition. Bless their unfolding story. May they walk forward with a calm spirit, a lifted head, and a heart ready to receive only what aligns with truth and love. And as peace anchors them now, let the next layer of understanding rise with grace. There comes a moment, my beloved child, when the air around you begins to change before anything in your circumstances does. You might expect breakthroughs to arrive with dramatic signs, loud confirmations, or sudden revelations, but heaven rarely moves in chaos. Instead, the first sign of a shift is almost always peace, quiet, steady, unmistakable peace. Stay with me, because knowing how peace feels will help you recognize the unfolding long before it becomes visible. You may notice a soft settling in your chest, as if someone gently pressed a warm hand over your heart. Not to restrain you, but to steady you. What felt tangled begins to loosen. What felt urgent begins to slow. Even thoughts that once spiraled start to land with more clarity, more ease, more breathing room. This is not imagination. This is alignment quietly stretching open inside you. The shift rarely announces itself with fireworks. It begins as stillness. A subtle pause where you suddenly realize you are not worrying in the same way you used to. A moment when the story you've been afraid to confront no longer feels threatening. A day when the person who once occupied every corner of your mind no longer pulls at your peace with the same intensity. That is how heaven prepares you, by clearing inner space so truth can settle without shaking you. You might feel this peace like a warmth in your ribs, or a lightness across your shoulders. You might feel it as a soft exhale that escapes before you even realize you were holding your breath. Sometimes it shows up as a sudden clarity that doesn't shout but simply is. You don't have to force it. You don't have to chase it. It comes when something within you aligns with something greater around you. And even if nothing has changed externally, the way you interpret things begins to shift. What once felt like a threat begins to feel like information. What once felt like rejection begins to feel like redirection. What once felt like loss begins to feel like protection. That internal reorientation is not weakness or denial. It is grace rearranging your perception so that truth can land gently when it arrives. You may also sense a new steadiness entering your spirit, almost like roots forming beneath your feet. You feel less reactive, less easily pulled into old patterns, less shaken by the unknown. Peace does not mean you suddenly know everything. Peace means you trust that you will know when you need to know. That trust is the bridge heaven builds before any breakthrough appears. Sometimes you will feel this shift in dreams that leave you calmer rather than confused. Sometimes in conversations that reveal how much you've grown. Sometimes in moments of silence when you realize you are no longer asking the same desperate questions. Peace simplifies things. It quiets noise. It creates room for the next truth to rise without competing with fear. So do not dismiss the subtle signs. Do not overlook the gentleness. When peace arrives first, it is heaven's way of preparing you for something meant to bless you rather than overwhelm you. Let the calm stretch through you. Let it gather behind your heart like a soft glow. The shift is approaching, and the peace you're beginning to feel is the first whisper of everything aligning in your favor. There was once a woman who carried more questions than answers, yet moved through her days with a quiet strength she barely recognized. She would wake each morning wondering why her heart felt both hopeful and heavy, as if two storylines were pulling at her at the same time. Some days she believed clarity was close, and other days she felt lost in a fog that refused to lift. Heaven watched her tenderly, not judging her confusion but understanding how deeply she longed for direction. She didn't realize that her worn-out storyline was beginning to unravel not because she failed, but because it could no longer hold who she was becoming. And so life, with its gentle hands, began rewriting her path long before she noticed the shift. One afternoon, as she walked along a familiar road, she felt something soften inside her chest. It wasn't an answer, not exactly, but a release, a quiet letting go of the belief that everything had to be held together by her own strength. She kept walking, noticing how the wind seemed gentler, how the light seemed warmer, how her fears seemed smaller. That shift did not answer every question, but it made space for new truth to enter. In the days that followed, she found herself remembering old dreams, ones she had folded away after life became too complicated. And slowly, a new storyline began to form, not forced, not rushed, simply revealed like a path appearing after fog begins to lift. She noticed how people who once drained her began to fade from her life without conflict or bitterness. And she noticed how others, gentle and grounded, stepped into her space as if guided by something wiser than coincidence. Her heart, once cracked by confusion, began to mend in quiet ways she could not fully describe. She did not rise overnight. She did not transform in an instant. But she grew, the way dawn grows, softly, steadily, almost imperceptibly until light fills everything. There were still moments of wondering, moments of reaching back toward what once felt familiar, but they no longer held her the way they once did. And heaven, watching her unfold, continued guiding her toward what aligned with her healing rather than her history. She found herself choosing peace more often, choosing honesty more quickly, choosing herself more wholeheartedly. And as she grew steadier, the world around her began reflecting that steadiness back to her, offering opportunities that honored her truth. In time, she realized that she had not been abandoned by life but rewritten by love, slowly, gently, faithfully. Her story had not ended in the ache she once feared. It had unfolded into a path that finally felt like hers. And though she could not have imagined it at the beginning, the confusion that once felt so heavy became the soil from which her renewal grew. She understood then that every pause had held purpose, every detour had carried wisdom. Nothing had been wasted, not a single tear, not a single moment she spent wondering if she was worthy of something better. Her life was opening at last for her. For the next 7 days, my dear one, you are invited into simplicity. Not dramatic routines, not heavy commitments, but gentle practices that help your spirit stabilize instead of spiral. These small steps are not meant to fix everything. They are meant to steady you long enough for peace to take root. Each morning, before your mind begins its familiar rush, place one hand over your chest and take 3 slow breaths. Feel the rise beneath your palm. Feel the soft warmth pushing against your hand. This is your reminder that you are here, anchored, supported. 3 breaths may seem small, but small things often open the biggest doors. After breathing, give yourself 2 minutes of honest journaling. Not structured, not polished, simply the truth you are ready to release onto paper. Write what feels heavy. Write what feels hopeful. Write without judging what pours out. These 2 minutes teach your spirit that it is safe to speak, safe to feel, safe to name what is real. During the day, choose one moment to pause and scan your body. Notice your shoulders. Notice your jaw. Notice the way your breath moves. If you find tension, soften it with one slow inhale and one slower exhale. This small act interrupts spirals before they build. It brings you back to the present where clarity can gather. In the late afternoon, give yourself a quiet check-in. Ask, gently, what do I need right now? Sometimes the answer will be rest. Sometimes water. Sometimes silence. Sometimes connection. Whatever rises, honor it as best you can. By asking, you teach yourself that your needs matter, that your voice matters, that your inner world deserves attention. Each evening, before sleep, whisper 3 gratitudes. They can be simple. A moment of relief. A kind word. A soft memory. A breath that felt easy. Gratitude does not erase pain, but it steadies the ground beneath your feet. It reminds you that goodness still reaches for you even on weary days. And once a day, take 30 seconds to place your hand on your heart again and say, softly, I am learning. I am healing. I am becoming. This repetition rewires what fear once distorted. It plants new roots where doubt once lived. These micro-practices are not rules. They are invitations. Invitations into gentleness, into awareness, into peace that grows through small, steady choices. Let them hold you this week, and feel how every simple moment becomes a doorway into deeper calm. There comes a moment, my beloved child, when your spirit begins to see the difference between what you feared was happening and what was quietly unfolding in your favor. You thought you were losing pieces of yourself, losing time, losing love, losing chances. But heaven was never subtracting from you. Heaven was clearing space. Feel that truth settle in your chest as we walk through this contrast together, slowly, rhythmically, like a soft drumbeat guiding you home. You thought you lost stability, but heaven was restoring your foundation. You thought you lost direction, but heaven was restoring clarity. You thought you lost connection, but heaven was restoring alignment. These shifts were not punishments. They were preparations. There were days when confusion felt louder than hope. You stood at the edge of choices you didn't want to make, wondering if the life you imagined was dissolving before your eyes. But what felt like falling apart was often falling into place. What felt like silence was actually rearrangement. What felt like scarcity was the pruning that makes new growth possible. You once looked at closed doors and saw endings. Heaven looked at those same doors and saw protection. You once felt abandoned in unanswered prayers. Heaven saw the need to redirect you gently away from what would have drained you. You once mistook delay for denial. Heaven knew that timing is a language all its own. There is power in realizing that not everything you grieved was meant to stay. Some things left because your spirit outgrew them. Some things ended because your heart finally mattered. Some things dissolved because truth needed room to rise. This is the sacred contrast. Illusion felt like loss. Truth feels like restoration. Listen to this rhythm now. You are not losing. You are clearing. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are not behind. You are being aligned. Momentum builds as clarity returns. You begin to see how every detour shaped your strength. How every pause expanded your discernment. How every disappointment softened your heart just enough to make space for something gentler, truer, more rooted in who you really are. Think of the moments you thought you were alone. Think of the nights when fear painted stories that were never yours to carry. Think of the tears you shed believing something precious slipped through your fingers. Now breathe into this new understanding. What is truly meant for you does not need to be chased, forced, or clung to in desperation. What is yours will rise with you, not run from you. Heaven is restoring your sense of worth, reminding you that love must nourish, not deplete. Heaven is restoring your vision, showing you that clarity comes from peace, not panic. Heaven is restoring your courage, awakening the part of you that still believes in beginnings you cannot yet see. The contrast is becoming undeniable now. What once felt like collapse now feels like correction. What once felt like emptiness now feels like readiness. What once felt like loss now reveals itself as quiet protection wrapped in divine wisdom. And as this restoration unfolds, you will feel your spirit lift, your shoulders lighten, and your heart whisper, I was never abandoned. I was being rebuilt. My beloved child, as we come to this sacred closing moment, breathe softly now. You have walked through layers of clarity, comfort, and truth, allowing your spirit to open in ways you may not have expected. Feel a warmth settling around your shoulders, like gentle hands blessing your journey. Feel calm rising in your chest, steady and quiet like an evening tide. You are not leaving this message the same way you entered it. Something within you is clearer, braver, and more receptive to the peace that has been reaching for you. Let this presence hold you as softly as light resting on water. In this tender space, Imagine Archangel Michael standing near you with unwavering strength. Not as a force of fear, but as a symbol of courage awakening inside your spirit. Picture a soft blue light surrounding your body, steadying your breath and grounding your thoughts. This light reminds you that you do not walk alone, not now, not ever. Even when the world feels loud, your spirit is sheltered in quiet protection. Even when uncertainty rises, clarity returns like a faithful whisper. Let this gentle image settle deep within you, where truth grows without pressure. You may still have questions, and that is allowed in this sacred unfolding. Courage does not require having every answer, it simply invites honesty, presence, and softness. Clarity does not demand haste, it blooms slowly, just as your heart is blooming now. You are stepping out of isolation and into belonging, with heaven, with yourself, and with those who understand the language of quiet transformation. Feel how your breath flows with more steadiness than before. Feel how your thoughts settle more gently, like dust drifting to the ground after a long storm. You are becoming someone who listens for peace before reacting to fear. So as this blessing settles over you, receive what resonates and release what does not. Heaven never forces, heaven invites, welcomes, and walks with you in every chapter. Archangel Michael's presence symbolizes strength returning to your spirit with quiet confidence. It reminds you that wisdom already lives inside you and that your heart deserves to be honored. Stand gently in that truth, knowing you are supported in ways far deeper than sight. Let peace fill the spaces where confusion once lived, softening what still feels tender. Let courage rise slowly, like dawn warming the horizon. Before you go, I invite you to share your heart in a small, simple way. If a word, a prayer, or a quiet hope stirred within you, offer it openly. Your voice creates connection, turning this space into a circle of shared healing. And when you share, someone else may find the reassurance their spirit has been aching for. If this message brought peace, stay connected so your heart continues receiving nourishment. Belonging grows through gentle touch points, through community woven by shared experience, quiet faith, and honest longing. Let this blessing follow you into your evening, your dreams, and your next still moment. And may heaven's protection, courage, and clarity remain with you as you step forward into what is unfolding for you now.